After his first love passed away, Kevin became mute. For years into our marriage, he had always been cold and distant, showing no concern for me at all. But later, I overheard his friend teasing him, "President Kevin, you must be suffocating from pretending to be mute at home every day." Kevin, who was supposed to be mute, replied in a cold voice, "I'm not pretending to be mute. I just hate everything related to her." When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in time, before his first love had died. I pushed him toward his first love, but he trembled and asked, "Why are you pushing me to someone else?" On Kevin's birthday, I prepared a birthday gift for him, a table full of delicious dishes. However, after waiting for a long time, he didn't show up. The food grew cold. I asked one of his friends and found out that Kevin was at the Chinyun bar. I felt desolate inside and numbly got up, rushing over there. The private room was brightly lit, with feasting and merriment going on. Inside were a group of men and women, all of them Kevin's acquaintances. I was just about to push the door open when I heard Kevin's friend tease him again, "President Kevin, you must be feeling suffocated from pretending to be mute at home every day." At that moment, I felt a chill run through my entire body. Someone beside me chimed in, "Yeah, that woman Ava is too tough. I wouldn't want to live with her either if I were you." "Kevin, how long are you going to keep pretending to be mute? It's been 4 years already." I had originally rushed over worried about Kevin's health, afraid that drinking would harm him. My ears were buzzing, my legs wouldn't listen to me, and I felt weak. I clenched my palms tightly, and only by digging my nails hard into my palms could I hold back my voice. In the private room, Kevin, who was supposed to be mute, had a cold voice. "I'm not pretending to be mute. I just hate everything related to her," he said. He suddenly sneered, "She's so stupid. She hasn't realized that I've been pretending to be mute for 4 years. Kevin, you recovered a month after the car accident, but Ava didn't notice it at all," someone said. "If it weren't for Chloe, you wouldn't have to make do with her today. It's Kevin's birthday, let's not mention Ava." Kevin's face darkened, and he picked up the wine glass and drank it down in one gulp. How strange. Even from this distance and through the crack of the door, I could see that Kevin's eyes were bloodshot. It was really ridiculous. In the past 4 years, I had truly thought that Kevin had been so stimulated that he would never be able to speak again in his life. But I didn't care about that. So what if he couldn't speak? I could still talk. I talked to him every day, trying to amuse him. I would tell him a lot of things that happened during the day. I would take the initiative to cook for him and help him build up a good body. I hoped that one day, I could have a place in his heart. Years had passed, and even a stone should have been warmed up by me. There was just one name that I never dared to touch, Chloe, Kevin's first love. She was the real owner of this bar, someone I could never compare to. I closed the door, and the voices inside were instantly cut off. I couldn't hear those sarcastic remarks anymore. I felt dizzy. Someone seemed to call me President Ava from behind, but I had no time to pay attention to it. I walked unsteadily to the side of the road and tremblingly took out my mobile phone from my pocket. My fingers were also shaking, and my vision became blurry. Suddenly, I realized that my hypoglycemia had flared up. I randomly took a candy and put it in my mouth. Finally, I sent a message to Kevin, "Kevin, let's get divorced." The birthday gift I gave him was a divorce agreement. I didn't ask for anything, just the villa where we had lived for 4 years. It was also at this moment that I finally clearly realized one thing: I could never compare to a dead person, whether it was in the past or in the future. Suddenly, a strong light shone, and I saw a truck coming towards me. There was a familiar yet strange voice behind me shouting my name loudly, "Ava." When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back 5 years ago. Nothing had happened yet. Kevin's first love hadn't died, and Kevin and I hadn't gotten married either. I was in a state of great ecstasy at that time. I had just graduated. Kevin's family had suffered a heavy blow, and his first love had gone abroad. I ended my previous life for his sake. I resolutely quit my job with a bright future and went to Kevin's company to work hard with him. Bit by bit, due to long-term overwork and an irregular diet, he had a serious stomach problem. I made nutritious meals for him in different ways every day. At business dinners, in order to get those pop-bellied bosses to sign contracts, I was afraid that Kevin's stomach couldn't bear too much alcohol, so I often drank on his behalf and got those bosses drunk instead of him. At that time, Kevin might have really been touched by me. When I was vomiting terribly, he didn't show any disgust for me. For once, instead, he made sobering tea for me. After a long silence, he asked me, "Ava, was it worth it?" Even when I was drunk, I didn't forget that I liked him. I smiled with my eyes curved. It was worth it. I liked Kevin the most. That touch of emotion at that time couldn't withstand the long years and his longing for his first love. Later, I found out that he really wasn't worth it. This time, I wouldn't quit my job for him. My phone rang. It was Kevin. His voice sounded a bit haggard as he asked me, "Has your resignation application been approved?" I looked at the resignation letter in my hand. If I hadn't been reborn, I would have immediately gone to the president's office to submit my resignation letter. Then, without accepting the president's retention, I would resolutely go to a small company with nothing and work hard with Kevin for several years. His first love would be robbed, and her body dumped abroad. Kevin would be so depressed that he became mute. Finally, he would be half coerced and half tempted to marry me. I smiled and said, "Kevin, I just sent a message to your first love, telling her about your current situation. She said she would come back from now on. Let her accompany you." There was a long silence on the other end. He should have frowned. He asked in a deep voice, "What do you mean by this?" I said word by word, "I mean whoever wants to quit can quit. I won't quit my job in a Fortune 500 company." Before he could say more, I had already hung up the phone. The pent-up frustration in my chest dissipated a lot with that sentence. Suddenly, a familiar deep voice came from behind. The person asked with a smile, "Do you like this job that much?" I turned around and met Wagner's eyes. There was a smile in the corners of his eyes. I remembered that in my previous life, many people had kicked me when I was down, and there were also many people who didn't think highly of my relationship with Kevin. But when I drank until I had stomach bleeding and still couldn't sign that contract, it was Wagner who spoke well of me. It was also a long time later that I found out that the boss had planned to cooperate with him. It was his suggestion that made the boss agree to sign the contract with me. In my previous life, until I died, I didn't have a chance to thank him. I couldn't help but feel my eyes a little moist and bowed 90° to him. "President Wagner, thank you." Wagner said, "Although I don't know why you're thanking me, you don't need to. Next time, save this big bow for my funeral." I was silent. You deserve to be single until you die. Since I met Kevin in college, I had always liked him. But at that time, the story of his liking Chloe was widely spread on campus. A group of people even posted on the confession wall just to find out about their relationship. Unfortunately, in the end, they didn't get together. I thought I would have a chance after graduation. I had also been hanging around Kevin all the time. Every time his brother saw me, they would tease me, "Oh, Kevin's little tail is here again. She's just not as good looking as Chloe. Why don't you bring Chloe here?" It seemed that they didn't regard me as a person at all. They just treated me as a joke to make fun of. At parties, when I got angry, Kevin would instead frown and say, "Don't make a fuss. They didn't mean that." Some people can do everything well, but they tend to lose their rationality when it comes to love. I lowered my bottom line for him time and time again, but now I won't do that anymore. I continued to work in Wagner's family group. I originally thought that with Kevin's arrogant personality, he wouldn't come to me at all. But when I got off work that day, a familiar car stopped in front of me suddenly, almost brushing against my leg. The car window was rolled down, revealing Kevin's cold face. He frowned tightly and said in an almost impatient tone, "Ava, what on earth are you up to? You just let go of the promise to resign like this. All the things you said before about liking me and coming to the company to help me, were they just playing with me?" I smiled brightly. "Yeah, what are you going to do about it? Only if I were out of my mind would I follow you to start a business with such a good job offer." Kevin was stunned. He didn't understand why I had changed so much and what had gotten into me. After a few seconds, he suddenly sneered, "Ava, the trick of playing hard to get doesn't suit you." Suddenly, a hand was placed on my waist from above. A calm and cold voice came from the other person. When we get married and have the wedding banquet, remember to bring your playing hard to get as a gift. It was Wagner. Kevin didn't know him and looked at him unfriendly. Ava, who is he? I asked faintly in return. Kevin, who are you to me? On what grounds are you questioning me? Chloe is coming back soon. Since you like her so much, I hope we can break up cleanly before she comes back. I'm not interested in being friends with someone I used to like. Maybe I had used this trick when I was angry before. Kevin didn't believe me at all. He sneered. You said you wanted to break up with me last time, but you came to me within 3 days. Are you trying to use the same old trick again? I bet you'll come back to apologize to me within 7 days. I nodded. Okay, then just wait and see. I resumed my peaceful life as I wished. Kevin didn't come to disturb me. I heard that his first love, Chloe, had already returned to China, and he went to pick her up at the airport. How nice. The tragedy of the previous life didn't happen. Chloe wouldn't die, and I wouldn't marry Kevin. 2 days later, Wagner suddenly came to me. There's a banquet on Wednesday. Would it be convenient for you to accompany me there? 10 times the salary paid daily. My eyes lit up, and I quickly nodded and bowed. Only I, your humble servant, can be competent for this job. It's a piece of cake for me. Really, a piece of cake. A faint smile appeared in the corners of his eyes. When I arrived at the banquet, I realized that something was wrong. I could run into one of Kevin's friends every few steps. Fortunately, Kevin hadn't made a comeback yet and hadn't mingled with them. I had just come out of the washroom when I ran into Kevin face to face. His eyes were cold, and it was hard to hide the smugness in his brows. Ava, it's only been 3 days, and you can't wait to come to me to apologize, he said. I exclaimed, where did this waiter come from? How rude. His face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Suddenly, he caught sight of the expensive evening dress I was wearing and frowned. Is it just for money that you didn't resign and stay with me? I stared at him with a look that seemed to say, who do you think you are? Just think about it yourself. There's no need to humiliate yourself by comparing you with money. Right, he said. Perhaps he couldn't accept that the person who had always been his admirer suddenly ignored him. Kevin said in a deep voice, Ava, how long do you want to keep pretending? Although Chloe has already come back, if you want to come back, I'll welcome you without holding grudges. You can't afford my monthly salary even with all your possessions. Don't talk nonsense. On what grounds are you welcoming me? By your shameless will, without the love-struck mind, my IQ has taken the high ground, I retorted. Kevin's eyes turned cold. He stepped forward and clenched my wrist tightly, staring straight at me with a piercing and intimidating gaze. Ava, don't make me angry. Even dogs are eating dog food these days, you know. For a moment, he didn't react and couldn't figure out why the topic had suddenly shifted to this. What do you mean? He asked. What I mean is that if there's dog food available, just eat it properly. Don't go outside and eat other people's. It's unhygienic and makes your mouth stink. It's also unfair to Chloe, I explained, showing my teeth in a big, bright, and flamboyant smile. There was no longer the previous meekness and caution in front of him. Besides, if I'm going to like someone, I'll like someone good-looking. Look at yourself. Which aspect of you can compare to our boss? I put one hand on my hip and finished speaking without taking a breath. A faint pain came from my wrist, but it faded away when I saw a certain sense of belief in Kevin's eyes shattering bit by bit. Suddenly, a familiar deep and low voice sounded behind me with a smile and a gentle yet solemn tone. Ava, it seems you have some taste after all. That hand unhesitatingly pulled mine out of Kevin's grip and gently rubbed the red mark. Does it hurt? I looked at Wagner in astonishment, and a lot of my defenses dropped. I subconsciously nodded. He twitched the corner of his mouth, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. If it hurts, hit him back. If you hit him back once, I'll give you a $10,000 raise when we go back. I rolled up my sleeves to reveal my biceps. Like a primitive female gorilla, your servant obeys your order, Ava. Kevin's face didn't look good at all. Wagner, on the other hand, seemed much more relaxed. When I was really about to rush up and hit someone without caring about anything, he held my wrist with one hand and laughed. How could I really let you hit him? At some point, a group of people noticed the abnormality here. The people behind didn't know how long they had been watching. I noticed with sharp eyes that some of Kevin's friends from last time were also there, and they clearly didn't have a friendly look towards me. One of them stepped forward and said, "President Wagner, peace is precious. There's no need to spoil the harmony because of a woman." I didn't say anything for a long while. Wagner didn't say anything either. Everyone was staring at him. I subconsciously looked up and heard his voice say, "He's using gender to suppress you. With me here, can't you use financial power to suppress him?" I must have had my brain kicked by a donkey 3 times in a row in my previous life that I resigned. "President Wagner, that's not necessary," I said. His gaze made me extremely uncomfortable. I suddenly remembered this person's character in my previous life. When I was with Kevin, he often made dirty jokes about me. After I got angry, he would raise his eyebrows with a smile and say, "It's just a joke. Why are you so rigid?" Kevin lowered his head and typed a message for me to see, "Don't make a fuss. If you don't want to stay, just leave." I deliberately smiled in front of his girlfriend and said, "There's a hairy mole on his left chest. I saw a lot of his fully naked videos online some time ago." Everyone's eyes focused on me. That man had a girlfriend. How did I know such private things? In my previous life, when I followed Kevin to attend their brother's dinner party, I heard them discussing it. Moreover, this man was unfaithful in relationships. The woman beside him had a livid face and slapped him across the face, shouting, "You scumbag." I then looked at the other people in the crowd. "Oh, and you cheated on your brother with his girlfriend behind his back. And it seems you cooperated with your brother's rival behind his back and made your brother lose hundreds of millions for nothing." They were dumbfounded. No, how does this woman know everything? They were afraid that I would say more. "President Wagner, give me some face and ask her to stop talking, okay?" Wagner smiled brightly and unrestrainedly. "My Wagner family dominates in Jingbei. How much are your faces worth? Is it enough if I pay you by card?" The whole place was dead silent. That group of Kevin's friends from the previous life, they all cursed him in their hearts at the same time. Damn it, why did you have to provoke that couple? Wagner really helped me a great deal this time. He not only helped me confront Kevin but also helped me get back my dignity in front of Kevin's future friends. With Wagner around, Kevin might not be able to make a comeback like he did in the previous life. I was satisfied when I went back. I clasped my fists towards Wagner and said, "Boss, I'll never forget your great kindness for saving my life." He coughed lightly, and a faint blush appeared on his face. "Well, it's not impossible. If you want to marry me as a way to repay me." I finished the second half of his sentence. "I'll be your ox or horse in the next life." His face darkened. "Why not in this life?" I calmly said, "Because I'm really not that virtuous." "Are you unhappy? Do you want me to kneel down on both knees and count out to you 3 times to show my highest sincerity?" "That's not necessary," he replied. Kevin had his pride. After the last incident, he calmed down for a while. I was happily working in the company before Wagner said that if I slapped someone, my salary would be increased by $10,000. Although he didn't let me hit anyone in the end, he really gave me a raise. He said just consider it as the reward for listening to so much gossip. As I expected, without my help, Kevin, with my interference and Wagner's involvement, found that many people in the capital city didn't dare to cooperate with him. Just as he was starting out, he suffered heavy blows one after another. That small company was on the verge of collapse, and I just heard that Chloe left him again. Kevin was down in the dumps for a while and didn't contact me either. However, I received a call from Kevin's father. "Ava, why haven't you come over recently? Your aunt and I have been talking about you every day at home these days. Your aunt misses you so much that she can't sleep well. She's been sick and lying in bed these 2 days, feeling so weak that she often calls your name in the middle of the night." The moment I received the call, my heart was slightly touched. In my previous life, another reason that was enough to support me to stay by Kevin's side was his parents. His parents were very kind to me. Every time they saw that Kevin ignored me, they would take turns to criticize him until later he was so stimulated that he became mute. Kevin's parents couldn't bear to say anything more to him. I silently clenched my palm, and my eyes became moist. I said in a low voice, "Uncle, I'll come to visit you after I'm done with my work in these 2 days. Ask Aunt to take good care of herself, okay?" Hearing the happy laughter on the other end, I asked in a low voice, "Uncle, isn't Kevin at home right there?" There was a second of silence on the other end. "No, no, that brat doesn't dare to come. Ava, just come over. Your uncle and aunt will always be your backers." Only after getting the affirmative answer did I breathe a sigh of relief. I didn't want to see Kevin, nor did I want to have any contact with him. But Kevin's parents were so kind to me before, and now that aunt is sick, it would seem ungrateful if I didn't go. During this period of time, I had the idea of starting my own business. When I was with Kevin before, I had been exposed to a lot of things and learned a lot. I dare say there's no problem with my professional ability. I also communicated with Wagner in advance. He raised his lips and said, "Ava, from the very beginning, I knew that your platform would never be limited to just this." After finishing my work in these 2 days, I went to Kevin's house on Saturday. I almost forgot where their family lived before Kevin became wealthy. I just remembered that later Kevin let them live in the biggest and nicest villa. I carried a lot of gifts and entered the door. Uncle greeted me with a big smile and joked with me. Everything was the same as in my previous life. They were still as warm as ever. After chatting for a while, I helped Aunt go back to the room to rest. With tears in her eyes, she said, "Ava, you're so virtuous and kind-hearted. It would be great if Kevin could marry you." I didn't comment. Virtuous isn't really a good word. After tidying up, I got up and was about to say goodbye and go home when suddenly Aunt grabbed my hand. "Ava, could you help me go to the room next to Kevin's to find a necklace?" I nodded, but I missed the guilt that flashed in her eyes. I entered that room, saw the cabinet that Aunt mentioned, and quickly walked over. I found the necklace that Aunt mentioned from inside. Just as I got up, there was a sound behind me. I quickly turned around, only to see the closed door. The uneasiness in my heart grew stronger. I tentatively asked, "Uncle, Aunt, could you please open the door for me?" Aunt's voice came from outside the door. "Ava, you and Kevin have misunderstandings that need to be cleared up. Don't blame Aunt. Aunt just wants you two to be okay." My heart seemed to suddenly drop from a high altitude. The hanging heart finally died. "Ava, don't bother trying to get out. Uncle has remodeled the room, and most people can't open it," came the voice from outside. At that moment, I didn't know what it felt like in my heart. I just felt as if my whole body was in an icy lake, constantly sinking. I took out my phone, and sure enough, there was no signal at all. She wasn't sick, she deliberately lured me here. They even prepared this room long ago and knew that I would help them find things. They really went to great lengths to lock me in this room. Not hearing my voice, Uncle also said, "Ava, don't worry. Uncle and Aunt don't want to do anything to you. Kevin will be back soon. Then you two can have a good chat, okay?" There was no room for me to refuse at all. When Kevin came back, I was sitting on a chair in the room, staring at the door expressionlessly until I heard the sound outside. The door was opened from the outside in an instant, revealing Kevin's face. He rushed up and hugged me tightly. His breathing was heavy and fast. "Ava, you still care about me, right? Mom and Dad said that they lied to you that I had a car accident, and you immediately came to see me without hesitation. If there really was such a time, only you would be by my side." I let him hold me and didn't move. After a long while, he still didn't let go. I twitched my lips and smiled extremely sarcastically. "Kevin, aren't you cheap?" He froze all over. "A good horse never turns back to eat the grass that has passed by, let alone grass that has been rotten from the roots. Your parents imprisoning me is illegal, you know," I said firmly. "You know, and you also know that the story your parents made up about you being sick to trick me here is false. But you pretend not to know as if you can distance yourself from it. I shouldn't have had any illusions about your parents. Your whole family is just as bad." His whole body exuded a cold and fierce aura. He pinched my chin tightly, forcing me to look up at him. "Ava, don't challenge my bottom line again and again. Didn't you like me the most before? Before, I didn't understand and let you down, but now I understand. I don't like the Chloe in my fantasy, but you who are by my side. Let's start over, okay?" I know that last time Wagner pretended to be your boyfriend, and you two aren't in a relationship. If it were in my previous life, before I made up my mind to sign that divorce agreement, hearing these words would really have moved me to the point of being incoherent. However, some words, once they miss the best time, are just meaningless. I used a sentence he said in his previous life and threw it back at him. Kevin, don't make a fuss. You've lost such a nice girl like Chloe. How useless you are. Kevin's voice was hoarse. She's nice, but I only like you. She doesn't understand me. She just thinks that I'm not hardworking and enterprising, that I can't make a comeback, and she has never recognized me. She even compares me with other self-made bosses and looks down on me. He didn't really like me that much. The reason why the first love is precisely because it's like the moon hanging high in the sky, always out of reach. People always hold on to their obsessions for the things they can't get. Now Chloe is back, she's also accompanying Kevin to start a business together, just like I did back then, wanting to build a business empire. They had a happy time for a while, just like an ordinary couple. Chloe would also comfort him and support him in starting his business. However, unexpectedly, Chloe is different from me. She likes to comfort others in an inspiring way. Before President Jiang's family went bankrupt and he started his own business, he went to talk about business with other bosses every day and drank until midnight. There wasn't a single day when he was sober. Once, he almost died from drinking too much, and President Wang, don't look at how good his company's scale is now. His company went bankrupt twice before, and he almost committed suicide, but he still managed to get through it. You should learn more from other people's entrepreneurial experiences and see if you can draw some lessons. After all, you majored in finance at the beginning. Starting a business shouldn't be difficult for you. I was much gentler back then. I'm not actually that kind of person. I'm rather impatient. Being so awe-struck made me change my temperament a lot, but now I'm sober. I smiled and said to him, wasn't what she said right, Kevin? No one wants you, but I'm wanted by others, okay? Kevin's eyes were red, and he could hardly speak. In this life, without my help, perhaps Wagner would never have given him that order with the largest amount, which was the key to his success back then. But it's gone now, and there's nothing we can do about it. He was so angry that he slammed the door and left, only throwing out a sentence, Ava, I hope you can be more sensible. I don't usually socialize much during this period. I've had the most contact with Wagner, but he's the president of the company. Tomorrow is Sunday again. Perhaps no one will notice that I'm not around at all. I curled up in the chair and quietly looked at the tiny window on the wall, vaguely catching a glimpse of the moonlight outside. A soft sound broke my thoughts. I was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from above my head. Ava, you didn't even react when you heard the sound. Why are you so dumb? I looked up and saw a figure that shouldn't have appeared here. Wagner opened that window, stuck his head in, with a look in his eyes that seemed to be smiling but not really, looking a bit funny. But I keenly sensed that he seemed to be angry. President Wagner, why are you here? He retorted. If I didn't come, I'd have to wait for you to get out by yourself. I don't know how much work would be delayed. What an evil capitalist, I muttered. 1 second. 2 seconds. Quite a while passed, and we just looked at each other without saying a word. Suddenly, I asked, President Wagner, have you called the police? He raised his eyebrows. Are you willing to call the police? Of course, I'll call the police. They've imprisoned me and restricted my personal freedom. Why wouldn't I call the police? Wagner muttered to himself, I thought you liked Kevin so much that you wouldn't call the police. What? Nothing. I really couldn't imagine how Wagner could stay on that small window so steadily for such a long time. I quickly urged him to call the police. He tested, then should I really go? Go ahead, go ahead. But quite a while passed, and he still didn't move. I looked at him in confusion. He pursed his lips tightly and was rarely so serious and solemn. I'm afraid that if I go down, you'll be scared. I was puzzled. Scared of what? He looked away. Aren't you afraid of the dark? How do you know that I am afraid of the dark? But after staying with Kevin for a long time in my previous life, he would say to me, what's there to be afraid of in the dark? Can't you stop being so pretentious? So this was being pretentious. Later, I forced myself not to be afraid. Gradually, it seemed that I really wasn't that scared anymore. I stared straight at him, but he didn't dare to look at me. Kevin seemed to have heard the noise in the room at the moment when he opened the door. Wagner had already left the window. The high-hanging window returned to its original state, and the moonlight shone in through the window. Kevin then felt relieved. "Are you hungry?" I didn't reply to him. I was waiting for Wagner, who said that he would take me out safely. When the police cars arrived, Kevin's family was all stunned. The signal was blocked, so I couldn't make a phone call or communicate with people outside. Kevin didn't know what he thought of. Suddenly, he turned around and looked at me, who had a calm face. He also saw the scene where Wagner walked quickly over and hugged me into his arms. I stared at him blankly. Suddenly, I asked softly, "Wagner, did you know me before knowing that I was afraid of the dark and giving me the order in my previous life?" Finding that he couldn't get in touch with me, he could still find Kevin's place. It was hard not to be suspicious. He stiffened slightly, and his face became even more silent and cold. "I originally planned to put a QR code on my tombstone after I died so that you could scan it to see what you had forgotten, but you found out in advance." How annoying. But you don't look annoyed at all. It's just that he's not willing to mention the past now. Kevin ran away. The police couldn't find where he was. Wagner was worried about me and sent me home in person every day. He wouldn't leave until he saw the lights in my house were on for several days in a row. I was fine. I frowned tightly, not knowing why Kevin had run away. Doing so would only make his punishment more severe. Although his company was small in scale, the investment was huge. Almost all the remaining money in their family had been invested in all his projects. There was a bidding activity some time ago. I came across it while working. The Wagner family also seemed to plan to participate in the competition. I don't know why the Wagner family didn't succeed in the bidding in my previous life, but instead Kevin and I got the opportunity by chance. Now his company is in a state of being leaderless and is almost in chaos. I felt even more complicated in my heart. Seeing the company that I had worked hard to manage in my previous life become like this now, I felt a bit lost and sad. Wagner knew about it earlier than I did. It was he who called me to his office and told me about it. He raised his eyelids and looked over slowly. "Ava, how could you have liked such a man before?" I shrugged. "I don't know. I'll give him to you if you want." He gritted his back teeth and suddenly laughed angrily. "I don't want my future children to have a criminal record. I know the world's top ophthalmologists. I'll send you to have your eyes checked for free. How come you can't see a good man even when he's right in front of you?" Having liked Kevin is like having a criminal record, making one so timid that I've been so busy these 2 days that I'm dizzy, and Kevin hasn't shown up either. Before long, I won't have to work for others anymore. I won't live for others either. I have the ability. Why should I work for others? Wagner fully supports my decision. He said that if a company is afraid that its employees are too capable and worried that they will quit and start their own businesses, then this company won't go far. The night lights were dim when Wagner sent me to the entrance of the community. I asked him to let me off. During this period, the security guards all thought that he was my boyfriend. I didn't want to cause misunderstandings. Wagner said slowly, "Okay, I'm afraid that I'll delay you from finding a boyfriend." I summoned up my courage and walked into the community by myself. I didn't suddenly remember until I got near my home that the light at the entrance was broken. I felt a bit scared in my heart. Just as I walked into the stairwell, a hand stretched out towards me from the dark. Before I could react, the other person had already pulled me into the stair compartment. Another hand tightly covered my mouth, and I couldn't make a sound. At the moment when our breaths intertwined, I seemed to hear the other person's violent heartbeat. I was so familiar with Kevin in my previous life that it didn't take me long to guess that it was him. But he was clearly still wanted by the police. Kevin. He slowly loosened the hand covering my mouth. His breathing was heavy, and his heart was beating fast. His eyes were as black as a deep pool, fixedly staring at my eyes. I forced myself to stay calm. "Kevin, don't do anything wrong." His voice trembled again and again, like a lost child full of confusion and helplessness. I seemed to have already done something wrong. What should I do? Was he referring to giving up Chloe or collaborating with his parents to lock me up? He slowly held my hand. I could feel that his palm was sweaty and still shaking. In the dark, I noticed that his eyes were a bit red as he said in a trembling voice, "Ava, why did you push me to others? Don't you like me anymore?" My mind went blank. I pinched my palm to stay calm. He continued slowly, "During this period, I always dream about you." In the dream, I clearly realized that it was you and me, but those scenes had never happened before. I looked at the stairway, thinking about how to escape, and replied perfunctorily, "In the dream, I dreamed that Chloe didn't return to China but died abroad instead." I pretended to be a mute. "Later, you firmly decided to marry me. I also dreamed that you had been accompanying me to struggle, helping me make a comeback. You even drank until you had stomach bleeding when helping me sign orders with those bosses." I slowly looked up at him. I could hardly believe it. All these things had actually happened in my previous life. How could he dream about them? I kept a straight face. "If this is all you want to tell me about these unfounded things, then you found the wrong person." He held me back. His eyes trembled slightly, and his whole body seemed to be broken. "Ava, you've also been reborn, right?" I asked indifferently. "Kevin, are you crazy?" As soon as these words were said, he really seemed to go crazy. "When I found out that you liked Wagner and pushed me to Chloe, I was already crazy." He lowered his head to look for my lips and forced a kiss on me. I struggled and turned my face away. He only kissed my cheek. With a bang, I only felt the wind from the punch and didn't even see clearly how the other person threw the punch. Kevin had already fallen to the ground, but his eyes were still staring straight at me. He endured the pain and begged me in a trembling voice, "Ava, don't leave me, please." I had already looked away and looked at Wagner. I stepped forward and hugged his waist tightly. I noticed that his whole body was stiff and uncomfortable. I lowered my voice and asked, "Why are you here?" He said, "You didn't reply to my message. I was worried that something might happen to you, so I came to have a look." I breathed a sigh of relief. Kevin was arrested and brought to justice for illegally imprisoning others. Although he was an accomplice, he was the main cause, and even escaping from law enforcement added to his crime. He wanted to see me. I went to see him. He had his hair cut short, and his former glory was gone. His eyes were full of depression and guilt. "Ava, the person I'm most sorry for in my life is you. I'm sorry for treating you so badly in my previous life. If I had remembered the past memories earlier and treated you better, would everything be?" I interrupted his words. I stared straight at him, expressionless, and said in a low voice, "No. Since I decided to divorce, I didn't plan to like you anymore." His eyes became dull, and his whole body seemed to hunch over and become much thinner. "Kevin, the one you should be most sorry for is the company you founded with your own hands because it was also our painstaking effort," I said. I stopped paying attention to Kevin. He truly faded out of my life. Wagner took me to many gatherings. I wanted to decline at first, but he raised his eyebrows and said, "Don't you want to start your own business? How can you do it without understanding the market situation?" I already understood it all, I thought to myself, but I didn't dare to say it. When the gathering was about to end, I went out to pay the bill and came back to hear them discussing me inside. "President Wagner, since you like this little girl so much, why don't you make her your secretary?" they said. People of their status usually liked to give special treatment to those they liked. They would transfer the person to their own office to be their personal secretary. Wagner slightly raised his eyebrows, and his voice was full of indulgence. "This little girl has her own abilities. Why should I confine her by my side? What I can do is give her a platform to display her talents. That's enough." They looked at each other and smiled awkwardly. Most people didn't take it seriously. They thought that she was just a woman. A long time later, it was precisely this woman, me, who founded a top-notch female products company in China. When they saw that I was making money, they were envious, so they came to ask me for the secrets of making money. I smiled and said, "If you want to make money from women, you should first learn to respect women." Of course, that was all later. I pinched the corner of my clothes tightly outside the door. When it was time to leave, Wagner, as usual, sent me to my doorstep. However, I didn't get out of the car. I turned my head and stared at him with a burning gaze. Wagner, you said before that we had met before. Would you mind telling me about it? His thick black eyelashes fluttered slightly. You don't want to know. You are not a fish, how can you know the happiness of a fish? Finally, he was willing to talk about it. His journey of starting a business wasn't all smooth sailing. After his business failed, he didn't even have $5 left in his pocket. He just sat in front of the convenience store, looking at the sky. I came out of the convenience store at that time and mistook him for a homeless man, so I took the initiative to buy him some food and drinks. It was just a piece of cake for me, and I didn't have much impression of it at all. But he remembered it forever in his mind. Later, when he saw me staying beside Kevin, that's why he took the initiative to give up some profits. I pursed my lips. Why didn't you say it from the beginning? Do you not want to mention it because you don't want to recall the hardships of starting a business back then? Well, I could understand that. He shook his head and looked away. I don't think the period when I started my business was a stain on me. I just want to always show you my powerful and clean side. I put my hands on the sides of his face, turned his head back so that he could only look at me, and then slowly hugged him. No one is always powerful, and no one will always be weak. Besides, it's because of what you were in the past that you are what you are now. It's really cool that you succeeded in starting your business. Really, I think you're so handsome and cool. He thought for a long time under my gaze. The corners of his mouth turned up as if there was a little hook, which made my heart itch. Then his charming voice came out. Think about making our relationship official, HM? I'm a good bargain. You'll definitely make a profit without losing anything. Layers of smiles appeared in my eyes. Well then, I'll reluctantly accept it. There will always be someone who shows up when I'm covered with scars and my heart is in tatters, letting me not lose the chance to love and be loved. Later, he said that his throat was almost parched that day. Fortunately, I liked it.